All right, here we are. So we're in
Okay.
record mode for those of you who can't catch us live, because I know a lot of you are in the middle of a work day and you're saying, I want to catch this, but I'm in work and is it being recorded? So yes, it is. If you're following us on Facebook, thank you so much. If you have comments or questions, feel free to put them in there and we'll get back to you. We can't see Facebook right now. All we can see is what's going on in Zoom. So if you did get into the Zoom link, then you can certainly ask questions in the chat box and we'll get back to you live today. But to start out, I just want to introduce our speaker and our guest today. I met Jen a couple of weeks ago at a women's networking event. Basically, it was an entrepreneurship event called Accelerate Her, and it was in Barrie, Ontario, Canada. And I know that there's some people watching from all over the world, but that's local to me and local to Jen. And when she was the keynote speaker that night, it was as if everything made sense that night for me. I felt as though I was meant to be in that room just for her keynote speech. And I stood there not knowing really very many people in the room at all, other than the people that told me about the event. And I felt as if I couldn't hold back the emotion anymore. It was giving me permission to feel everything I had been through in the past few years in my own business, to know that we're not alone. So I really wanted to bring Jen onto this call because this is a fairly new series of calls right now called Free to Be Friday. And it's really about allowing and giving ourselves permission to be who we want to be. And Jen is the perfect person to help us with that. So Jen, can I just welcome you to the call? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun. Yeah.
So fun. We're in our own houses or wherever we're
Yeah.
working today, and we can connect with people around the world. So that's great. So Jen, tell me a little bit about your business currently. Because I know, first of all, tell the name of your business because that got me.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about what you do.
So my business is called Dive Heart First. And that was something that just came out of my mouth one time when somebody was asking me what kind of clients I love to work with. And I'm like, oh, I love the ones that can just dive heart first into things. And she's like, that's amazing. And so it just came out of my mouth. And so that became my business name. And I'm a coach, speaker, facilitator. And I love working with entrepreneurs. So I'm a business coach, but with a twist. So I say I work with like multi-passionate and multi-dimensional entrepreneurs, which is very different than the typical business coach. And I'm really set on playing the infinite game and setting people up for sustainable success, not only in their business, but in their health and in their relationships. So I like to take a holistic approach to the entrepreneur. Yeah.
Which is so fantastic because I know when I sat down with you after I heard your speech, I was like, I need to know more about what this woman does. And we sat down for a little bit of time together in person. And I remember feeling like this is finally someone that gets me because there's so many coaches out there. And I know for anyone that's listening right now, there's a series of different coaches and coaches are fantastic no matter what it is you want to get better at, whether it's a sport, whether it's your business, relationship coaches. There's so many different coaches, marriage coach, everything, anything you want to improve, there's a coach for, but not all coaches do things in the same way. And I've had multiple coaches that are very masculine driven, masculine energy, push, push, shove, shove. And sometimes that doesn't work for everybody. So can you tell us a little bit about, obviously Dive Heart First says a lot. Tell me how you're different from, I know you've said a couple things, but how would it be different for someone looking for a coach that's been fed up with the way that some traditional coaching goes?
Yeah. So my last name is Walker, and I always say like I walk the talk. So essentially my coaching is really what I have overcome in my life, right? So my personal journey, and I shared in that keynote, was all about adrenal fatigue and massive, massive burnout. Just being in a push energy pretty much my entire life, even like growing up and being in athletics. And to me, in my subconscious, I got programmed for whatever reasons that I needed to achieve to receive love and acceptance. So that's a subconscious belief that I'm now aware of. And so it's up to me to make a conscious decision and choice around that to circumvent that now. So that athletic experience went into traveling, and I was a hardcore traveler for over a decade and a nomadic kind of, person that way. But any sort of professional, everything that I did was hardcore. And I just really leaned in and did the thing. And then when I started my business, I say I went out like Tony Robbins, okay? And I love Tony Robbins, but that is an example of massive masculine energy and go, 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 go. So I went out that way, and I completely, finally got a big enough lesson to throw me down and to really learn it. And it's still a work in progress. Like even right now, I'm a little bit sick. So what happened? And I was doing some reflective exercise on this just recently, and it was just, I pushed a little too hard recently. And so it's to get into that flow state. So a masculine divine, I love divine masculine energy. I love intentional aligned action. And that's a Tony Robbins. And there needs to be, especially for women, I believe, this tapping into, and why not? Because it's massively powerful, but this divine feminine. And the divine feminine is, Tony Robbins is very mind over matter. Put yourself in state, and it does amazing things. And what divine feminine is like, okay, I'm listening in right now to what my body is saying to me. Okay, so I'm being given a lesson this week. So what is off? And so divine feminine is really taking in consideration the whole, and not just me, like everything. So tuning into nature, tuning into myself, and really coming from a place of that. So that's where I'm a little bit different. Like I love strategy, and I say I love the art and science of business. So I love things like productivity hacks. I love things like intentional aligned action. And I also love, love, love to get into the flow of things that I think is available to all of us. That is an untapped resource right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And we all know, some of us do, I think all of us do, we understand what that feels like to be in that flow state. It's any time that time passes by that we don't even look at the clock, we don't realize it's gone.
Yeah.
And we can all, have examples in our life where that happens. It could be when we're with our family. It could be when we're by ourselves reading a book. It could be, so many different things. And to be able to bring that into business is a huge gift if we can really find that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I know you did talk about adrenal fatigue and burnout a bit. So can you tell me a little bit of how you turned that really dark time, because I can relate, I've gone through it myself. How did you turn that really dark time into a light? Because really our challenges help us. It's like that phrase goes, that Tony Robbins says, that life is happening for us, not to us.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit about how that challenge helped you in your life?
Yeah, definitely. Like it was definitely a lesson that I needed to learn. And when it came to me, I love that there's this expression out there that the universe will give you signs until you start listening. So it's like a whisper, like a breeze first, and then a feather lands on you, and then somebody's throwing a pebble, and then a brick, and then like a dump truck hits you. So I would say for me, this was more like a dump truck hit me. Mm-hmm. And it just knocked me. And I've had mono before, and this was like, so mono was probably the brick, that got thrown at me at high school, and I still didn't listen. And so the dump truck, when it hit me, like I couldn't even lift my arm up over my head. Like it was something that I've never experienced before in my life. And I knew it was something for me to learn. I knew that there was this whole surrender thing that I hadn't yet embraced. And there was this unconditional love and this compassion and also this trust that I needed to like embrace and learn. And I knew it was the universe or whatever handing me a lesson to take me to the next level. So I love my journey because and my success in life has all been because of that drive. And then I hit that glass ceiling. And so the next lesson that I needed, the next tool I needed, is to be able to then cycle through that really intense masculine energy that will always be a go-to for me. But then also the amazingness of that feminine energy, which is a major manifester. Major, major, major. And since I've been able to tap into that, that's when the fun, interesting things happen. When you think about something and then all of a sudden you're walking down the street and it just appears as an offering, or yeah.
That's so incredible. Oh my goodness. And I hope that our listeners are really getting this, because I think that in a lot of business adventures, I'm going to say adventure because it is an adventure some days, many of us feel that it has to be a certain way. And, you know, we look to some of our mentors or guides or entrepreneurship success speakers. And a lot of it is about the grind, the hustle, the go, go, go. And I just want to share with people, it is possible. If this isn't the way that you feel aligned with, that you can change the energy around it. So thank you for that, because I think you've really showed us that that's possible. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Another thing I'll add, because I love this stuff and this is becoming more and more mainstream. Even Simon Sinek has just released a book about the infinite game.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Oh my gosh.
And so it's very in alignment with this, because what are we rushing for? You know, there's an expression that like we're working so hard to buy things that we don't need to impress people that we don't like. So it's just a way to breathe and step back and take an assessment of the things that are important to us. And doing this work with enough people, no one is asking for the same thing. You know, this universe is super abundant and it's all there for us. So taking an assessment of like, what's the push for? Is it actually in our hearts, or is it something external to us and conditioned with that in us? And it's not even the race that we want to be winning, right?
Oh my gosh. So good. One of the questions I have for you is also in the area of fear. Many people watching today have not taken that next leap, that leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. And they have it in them. They have the thoughts, they have the desires, they have the belief, but they doubt something or they're fearful of something. And some people actually have been in that role of owning their own business, whether it be, you know, a traditional business or a network marketing business, and they've actually quit because of a fear or something that paralyzed them. I know this is personal, but do you have a fear that comes up for you often, and how do you overcome it?
Sure. Yeah, I have fears all the time that come up all the time. I do a lot of work. So I'm practiced in Reiki. So I come from a background in body work as well. Yeah, body work and sales. So interesting background. But so I always go to like my root chakra. Okay. And so that's actually the lower three chakras all have to do with action, and the upper ones have to do with more non-action. Okay. Yang and yin. So when I have any sort of fear, I see if it's real or not. Is it true? Okay. So our root chakra is really to protect us against death. Okay. And so it's food and water. And so we're speaking as Canadians. I know that if my business tomorrow tanked, like just went down in the worst way possible, I can go there to the worst case scenario and be like, you know what? Like, even if I was homeless, there's amazing social structures in Canada in place, like food and shelter at its basic levels to save us from demise are all there protected for us. So we're good. So what else is there? So that just centers me. So if ever I have a fear, I go, is it true? Like, am I truly threatened here? And what I discover most of the time is an emotional threat. And so I get curious. Fear actually has to do with the things that we need to do the most. So if I'm fearful of what people are going to think of me on this interview, because I'm talking about all this woo stuff, right? It's it's to do that. It's to take a step into that and to, you know, have the fear, do it anyway, and to stretch that comfort zone. And so the more I step into fear, the more my comfort zone and the area that I have to play expands, and the less fear I have.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So it is that whole thing of, and I will just share a really personal story of my own. A lot of people that know me know this. I was so afraid of flying. And my business requires that I fly. And I remember being like, how am I ever going to overcome this? Like my physiology would change. I would have multiple issues within my body that were paralyzing me literally. And I did a couple things to try to fix it and try to like see people to help me with that. But really what it came down to was I did it anyway, and I continued to do it. And every time I did it, it got less and less of an issue. Right. And now I don't have any of those physical things that happen in my body. Touch wood, because I certainly don't want that to come back. But it really was face your fear and do it anyway. So,
yep. And with practice, like it just all comes together. And people have been asking me recently about how to get into speaking for themselves. I'm like, just do it. Yeah. And do it often. Like that's how you learn, right? And that's how you grow. And yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so another question, because we've talked about some of the challenges and the fears, what excites you right now about your own journey, but also the journey of other people that you're working with?
So I'm excited. So I'll start with the people I'm working with, because I'm seeing this massive shift and it's happening so fast. Never have we been in this time in history. You know, we're just going an exponential growth and exponential sharing. When I first started coaching, I was coaching both men and women. And then I actually closed it down and I wanted to focus completely on women. And now, and I knew that would shift because Divine Feminine is a we, it's no exclusion. But I needed to dive into women because there's certain things that women entrepreneurs need to talk about and support each other with. So dove into that, and I was surprised that like already now I've opened my Facebook group back up to heart-centered entrepreneurs. So things are happening rapidly. Things that I'm talking about you know, relationships. And when I got to a specific point in my business, and that was my marker for success, and I didn't have the relationship, and I was like, oh,
I shouldn't have that connected, but that just popped up.
But for me, that was like, okay, that's not success to me yet. So what's really exciting for me is having these conversations with other people that also want to rise above. You know, I do things in business that is not very good for business sometimes. And it's a very, you know, tapping back into our humanity, and it's talking about sustainable success. So doing things that are right and are win-win-wins. It doesn't always lead to short-term success.
Yes.
And I'm loving that people are vibing with that concept. You know, there's been this evolution that's happening in business. And we're kind of realizing that what we've been doing in the past is no longer serving us. And where we're going in the future needs to drastically change. So that's exciting.
Oh, yes.
And for me, I'm interested, I'm just listening right now. So even you know, how my business evolves, I'm just listening to what people need. Something that keeps on coming back for me, I might actually get more. I've always been curious and interested in money mindset, because again, this was something huge for me to overcome. And I love the concept of investment. So investing in yourself, like personal growth, investing back into your business for that, you know, growth and wealth and experience and everything, and the contribution. And I'm getting interested actually in investing in stocks and doing some option trading. And I don't know where that will go, but as I see, like, as we talked about before, coaches come in many different forms, and there's amazing people out there right now. And I think that's something, an area where a lot of people are still disempowered in, that financial literacy. So we'll see. I'm just putting it up there, future pacing. That might be a direction that I go in the future, but just kind of listening for what the need is and kind of filling in that space.
That's so great. I love it. And it's so true. Like, that's probably my least favorite topic.
Yep.
So, and you know, the blueprint around that is just not empowering at all. And many people, they have this amazing outlook of what money is, and they're not afraid of it. And you can see in their success what that is for them. So yeah, there's a lot of work that we can all do, including for our next generation too.
Yeah, and what I find, money is interesting because it's something we use all the time in our daily practice, yet we don't talk about it. So whatever society doesn't talk about, there's shame around there. And I did one very transparent post about a year or so ago, and it got like 1,000 views overnight. It was all about my money, like my money situation, and I just came out with it. And I had so many, like, it resonated with so many people. So it's something definitely that I do in my own coaching practice, but I'm wondering if that's where I'm going to be leaning into in the future.
Interesting. Were you at the Tony Robbins event last week in Toronto?
I came for part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So did you hear that one man speaking about the stocks and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I was very curious about that too myself, but I was like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
I'm pushing it away.
Yeah.
All right. So I've asked a few questions. I just want to respect everybody's time because I try to do 20 to 30 minutes. I have one last question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And it's around the idea of if you had one key message to share with our listeners today about anything. I mean, obviously there's different listeners, but they've come here for a reason because of the heart-centered approach, possibly. It could be they're looking for a coach right now. It could be all kinds of different things. But if you could really, whether it's one sentence, one phrase, one paragraph, something that you feel would really resonate with our listeners today.
So the biggest thing is all the answers are within. So just go there. There's a writing exercise that I can invite you all into, or offer at least, is just sit distraction free, open up a journal, maybe light a candle, get into that zone, and just ask the questions that you normally would take outside of yourself. So, you know, if you have a question about your relationships, your health, or your business, and specifics that you don't think yet you have the answers to, write that question down and just let the ink flow to the paper for the answer. I do this once a week. I call it a heart heard hour of power. And it's amazing. Like, the best answers come out of me, and I didn't even know that they were there yet. So that's what I'll leave.
You know what, and I have to just add to that, because probably the last 3 years I've been really in that space of trust self, because I was that person that would always go external to try to find the answers that were right for me, but yet the answers that would be for one person wouldn't necessarily be mine, but I trusted them more. So I did the things they said they would do. Yeah. And it took me down the wrong road many times, and I'd be resentful and angry and bitter and be like, why am I feeling this way? And it was because it wasn't right for me. And not to say anything about them, because that was great for them, but it wasn't right for me. And I got into soul journaling, which sounds very similar to what you're talking about. And for those listening, there's a book about soul journaling if you'd like to know a little bit more. But Jen, you just explained it in such a simple way, to just let come what comes. And without overthinking it, don't even think twice, just write what's on your pen and your heart to say.
And the weirdest things come out, and I'm like, where did that even come from? But it's all there. It's all within us. Like, and that's just a great tool to see that in front of you when it comes out. You're like, oh, I'm all knowing. This is incredible. You know?
It is. And it's such an awareness that we don't even sometimes know we have. So thanks for that great reminder. Now, for anyone who wants to know more about you, obviously we've got you tagged in the Facebook posts, but where can people find you if they're interested in that Facebook group you mentioned or your website? Where can they find you?
Well, you're going to be tagged to my personal site, and I actually have a link. So I have the Passion and Purpose Project Facebook group, which is a free resource to whomever wants to be in that community. And so I do 2 Facebook Lives in that group. And I also have a free like breakthrough call for anyone if we're talking about something and people are vibing about this and they're ready. That's something that I offer. That's on my website. You're going to be able to find it all on my personal site and everything like that.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you really had on your heart to share today that I missed asking you?
No, I just want to acknowledge you for doing this. I love this. I love that you're diving back into like doing interviews online, and it's super powerful, and it's connecting people that normally wouldn't be connected. So
yes,
wanted to thank you for having me on here and doing this for all of us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been one of those things that's been speaking really loud, and I keep ignoring it. And finally, I'm like, okay, enough. I'm just going to do this because it makes me feel so in flow, like you said. So thank you so much for coming out today and helping all of us in your way. And I hope that some people reach out to you.
Me too. Sounds good.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care. And this will be recorded. You guys can share it around if you have somebody in mind that really needs to hear this message today. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.